The most useful Excel function is arguably the pivot table. Learn all about it in these 4 minutes. We're going to select our data and then go to Insert Pivot Table. You can put it on an existing sheet or put it on New. I generally always put it on New so I have enough space. I want to look at the item ID and product name, so I'm dragging those down to the row. If you put it in column, you'll see it goes all the way across the screen, and I feel that's hard to look at, so I almost always put things in the row field. Next, we want to do some math here. So we're going to use the value field. So you need to drag down price, and let's go with a sum. You can pick sum, average, min, max, whatever you want. Change the format. We're going to go with currency because price is dollars. So let's hit OK. And then you can do average price as well. So all you need to do is you can drag that down to values again as many times as needed, and then just make the necessary adjustments to make sure it's either sum, count, average, whatever you need. So next, you can change the name of these headings. Do not try to click on the heading in a pivot table and change it. It does not work well. This is how you do it. Okay, looks good. Our heading is updated. Next, let's go up to design. This is looking okay, but I tend to always click in the upper left and go with these standard settings. And I always go with tabular form. You can add rows in between, but I don't tend to like that. I think it makes it hard for calculations. And then you can change it to any color you wish, but we're just going to go with a gray. Next up is going to be calculated fields. So you don't want to type outside of the pivot table and try to do math functions because it's going to delete it if you make any changes to the rows and columns. So this is how you get around that. We can go in here and we can name it whatever we want. We're just going to call it margin. This isn't really margin, but we're just going to call it that for an example. And then type in equals and then any formula you need, and you can double click on the headings you have and it will do the math for you and make sure it's in the pivot table. I recommend you name your tabs pivot table something, and then where your main data is, you could also call that like a data tab, something like that, but all you need to do is double click and then type what you need. So next, what we're going to do is make an edit here to one of our product names. I'm showing you this so you know how to make the edits appear in the pivot. You need to click on refresh all. If you notice, it didn't show that update until we did that. Now let's say you wanted to make some changes. To get that field list again, you go up to the top and click, and then you could rearrange item ID and product name. And if we close this window, you can see what that looks like. It's okay, but it's a little bit better to me to have the item ID first. So then we're gonna leave that there. Feel free to test those and see what you think. Now, filter is a really key thing here. We don't show color on here at all, but you could. Or you can put it in filter and then select only the black items and it will show those to you and remove all the colors. Now let's say we want to see the totals. We're going to go back into those design options and we're going to show totals for columns. Notice if you click on rows, nothing happened. This particular one needs to be columns. That's looking good. And let's add a title. And we're going to do a center across selection. So we're going to right click on that and format. And let's center across selection. So now it's going to go across the cells that we selected. We'll make that a little bit larger. You can bold it, change the color, and let's remove the grid lines. It's looking great, but sometimes you don't want your data in a pivot table anymore. So what do? We're going to highlight everything, copy, right click, and we're going to paste it below. You could then hide your pivot or delete it. There you go.